Their loyalty is not to me, not to the department, not to the activists, not to the politicians. Their loyalty has to be to the truth. Can we clear up the streets? Can we get the homeless where they need to be? Can we stop all these crimes, wanton crimes that are going on right now? We can actually do all those things, but you got to have willingness to do it first.
Welcome back to the IAGA, a police podcast here with your host, Marlon Marrache. We've already determined, I think I say this all the time, all guests are special. Some require a higher level of degree of specialty, I should say. But today, we definitely have someone that I've been looking forward to having a conversation. But before we get started and talk about internal affairs and all this stuff, Alex, I got to know right off the bat, why the United States Air Force and not the United States Navy? Go Navy.
Well, Air Force said aim high. I always loved airplanes, and that whole Navy thing about seeing life, through a porthole, didn't really attract me.
No.
And I was a big T-Bird fan. Sorry about the Blue Angels.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Everybody swears that this Marine uniform is like so neat and so like, oh my God, this is great. And sorry for all my Marine guys out there, the royal blue with the red stripe, and then you have a tan shirt with a white cat. Talk to me.
Well, some people call it a seagoing bellhop. I'm not too sure, but I love the attitude of Marines. God bless them.
Yes.
When they're active duty.
Yes.
And but at some point they get disillusioned, but then they develop amnesia once they retire. They forget about all the hard times. But I used to deal with them in the hard times because in the Air Force they'd come to us for food, for housing, for everything, and like, oh my God, this is so great. Because unfortunately the brass in the Marine, they just treat them like shit.
Oh, it's interesting you say that. We used to have a detail called MARDET, Marine Detachment. So we used to carry them on the aircraft carrier where I was on, and you could swear that you know where they're at. They're PTing like at 4 or 5 in the morning. But I was in my ship for 3 years, and I think I've barely said hi to them like maybe once or twice. They're just very isolated, and they keep to themselves. Alex, let me ask you this. Out of high school, was that something that you just wanted to do, or did you have any other aspirations besides going into the military?
Well, I started in college first.
Okay.
And along came Ronald Reagan in 81. He thought the Pell Grants were a little too generous, so he cut them in half. Okay. And I was in Puerto Rico at the time, and without Pell Grants on the island, there's no like part-time jobs where you can just go work. Not in those days. Okay. So then that kind of forced my hand. I said, okay, I'll join Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam, here we go.
And after you did what, 4 or 5, 6 years?
I did 2 years active. Then I switched to the Air National Guard, then the Army National Guard. The Palace Chase program, I was one of the very first people to start it. And that's where they started downsizing active duty military. Okay. So converted active duty into Reserve National Guard.
Did life of an airman, I should say, life of a military person help you when you transition into law enforcement? What do you think?
Oh, definitely. When I went through the Sheriff's Academy, it was like, this is...
You get to go home.
You get to go home. You're not hearing that at 5 in the morning or anything like that. Oh, this is kind of easy. Yeah. And then, wait, I get paid 3 times more than when I was in the Air Force? Where do I sign up?
And to PT.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt the same way, too, in the academy. I'm like, dude, come 2:30, 3 o'clock, you get to go home, do PT. Now, since we are, now we're, let's see, that was in 86?
86.
86. Wow.
I'm old, yes.
Well, I'm interested. Well, no, I'm class of 86. I graduated right when you got in. So, we're kind of there in a sense. Let me ask you this, Alex. Law enforcement, we can all agree, has changed completely in decades. What was it like to academy life, and then you transition into your probationary period, if you will?
Well, I applied during the summer of '85 when the Night Stalker was running rampant, and I got hired on in February of '86. Graduated in October, went straight to the jails like all deputies do, and it was definitely some culture readjustment from growing up in rural Puerto Rico to now in the LA County Jail, and with the clientele they had there, that was quite an eye opener.
Wow. Now, I always love asking this question to my guests because you were there during the times of the Rodney King incident. We can agree it's probably a historical landmark in law enforcement.
Definitely, it was kind of a turning point.
Right. And so my question to you is, if you can turn back the clock to the day of the verdict, when the verdict came out at 4 or 5 p.m., I think it was in that day, where were you and what happened?
I was working patrol in East LA Station, and I think I was coming off day shift, and the PM shift was already gearing up, and we already heard that there was a flashpoint at Florence and Normandy, and it was starting to go to shit, but I came back the next day. Now we're on 12-hour shifts, and when I remember going back to work, all I could see on the skyline was it was all orange, and it's like,
wow. So the city just...
it went to shit.
Yeah. It just people don't realize how historical those times were. Let me ask you this: do you think we were prepared? Now that you have to reflect a little bit on it, or did you? I guess the question is, if I may ask you, that day, or did you guys even know, or were we even prepared for such a mayhem, if you will?
I think we were prepared logistically, and we had the bodies, we had the technology, we had the riot crowd control, we had less lethal, we had all the toys, but I don't think the leadership was prepared, because in 2020 I was in the hot seat that Sherman Block was in 1992 and Daryl Gates, and I remember thinking, man, they really screwed that one up when they decided, well, let's not do anything because we're going to upset people, and that actually was the worst decision in the history of law enforcement, I think, in the 20th century. Because 58 people killed, $2+ billion in damage. To this day, there's vacant lots in South LA that never recovered from that burn down. And all stemming from the decision, let's not do anything. And that was telegraphed and amplified on TV. Hey, look, they're pulling this kid out of a truck, Reginald Denley, they're beating him with bricks, and they're celebrating. And that fast forward to 2020, and now it's my turn in the hot seat. I said, well, we're not going to have the same outcome as 1992. We're going to be proactive, and we're going to do things different, and it worked out to our favor.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it just wasn't too long ago where we saw the protests here in downtown LA. The immigration, the ICE issue that's not just nationwide, it's like worldwide issue. And what really bothered me, and this is just on a personal note, seeing the CHP officers underneath the bypass, and my girlfriend and I were watching, and I'm telling her, I go, well, mobile field force is set. Collins up 2, let's go. Let's clear that intersection out. And it was close to an hour. It was an hour, and these 4 or 5 CHP officers were just taking not just rocks and bottles. I think at one point they grabbed the sign.
And the electric scooter, the sign.
The sign, and I'm thinking to myself, and here's the worst part of it all, more evidence to show that I think it was one of the helicopters, I think it was a news media helicopter that orbited, and actually depicts like 4 or 5 black and whites, like right down the street, maybe 50, I don't know, maybe 100 feet away. And I thought to myself, why are we taking so long to help our fellow officers?
2 blocks away, there was an entire mobile field force. Lieutenant in charge in our department, foaming at the mouth, let's go do it. And they were told to stand down. Me being that lieutenant, I'd say, screw you.
Yeah.
We're coming to save some people.
Perfect example when we segue into, I'll take the IA. Let's go.
No, that's that. For me, it almost reverted back to that 1992 model where, paralysis by analysis. Let's not do anything lest we be found wrong. Bullshit. Yeah. When they came under attack, why on earth would the CHP put themselves in that position to begin with? But given whatever decision they made, they got themselves in the below the
given the circumstances.
Yeah, where the bad guys had high ground. I'm sorry. That's a rescue mission. You act now. In fact, we drill that. We have field ops sergeant school, field ops lieutenant school, where we go through all these scenarios where we have the sergeants and lieutenants making decisions, forming a rescue team, and going and intervening. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It did not. And that really saddened me.
No, me too. Like the young kids say, cringe. I felt like, what's that? Nails in the chalkboard. Just, oh my gosh, we got to get right to it. I totally agree. If I was a lieutenant, I would have taken the IA, which segues into this internal affairs police podcast that I've been having for close to 2 years. I got to ask you, so here you are in 86 in the academy. Did anyone come in from internal affairs, introduce themselves, or tell you about their functions, or did you even know what internal affairs was when you started your law enforcement career?
I knew they existed.
Okay.
And my 4 years that I spent in the jail, I think I only heard of them once, and it was a righteous case. It was a use of force, flashlight. Remember the old flashlight therapy?
Yes.
But blood on the walls and a guy debrained, and that 4 deputies involved, they ended up all getting terminated. This is in the 80s when the standard was pre-Rodney King. So imagine what it took to get them terminated. And I knew some of them, they were, guys that you hang out with, you work with, but whatever led to their decision making, and I know it was IA, in effect, ICIB, Internal Criminal Investigation Bureau. And I can't remember if there was a federal case on them or not, but they got terminated, and that's really the only time I ever,
thought of or even heard of IA.
Although one other time, one deputy actually beat up another deputy in front of inmates. He was on a roid rage, and the other guy had got his, his steroids busted from his locker, and it was ugly.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you agree with me that internal affairs has a negative stigma attached to it?
It definitely does.
What is it that we can do to change? Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that it has such a negative stigma attached to it?
Because of potential to incentivize IA for the wrong reasons, it always proves itself. Depending on what the administration or the chief of police or the sheriff's inclinations are. And I'll give you a prime example. Trevor Kirk.
Yes.
That is a case. It was by the book, textbook, force is never pretty. However, the sheriff decided to throw him under the bus and basically manufacture a case and hand it over to the feds, and the feds indict him federally, and he got convicted. The rest is history, but that is weaponizing IA for the wrong reason. Why? Because he was trying to appease activists in the Antelope Valley.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate that happened to Trevor Kirk, and shout out to my law school classmate, his attorney, Tom Yu, is a good buddy of mine. We're hoping for really good results as it continues through the appellate process. Sheriff, let me ask you this. Your impression of internal affairs today, as we speak, compared to what it was when you came on the job, has it changed?
It has changed, and for the worse. When I came on the job of internal affairs, it was kind of considered a career track, because if I recall in those days, people that worked internal affairs ended up getting promoted. And it had a positive, I guess, and a reward if you worked in that career track. But by and large, they pretty much got it right. This is under Sherman Block. And there was not a drive to incentivize an outcome to appease any political, ideology. That changed under Baca, under McDonald, and now under Luna, and now we're back to that really ugly scenario.
What is it that we can do to change that negative stigma? I mean, you came on in 86, I came on in 98. Gosh, I'm sure internal affairs before our times was, I don't know if it was even worse, but there goes those suits, they're always, they're the dark side, they're the rat squad, or they're just evil people. What do you think that we can do to change that image?
Well, the 4 years that I was a sheriff, we did actually change the image quite a bit because we were going for evidence-based decision-making, not agenda-driven decision-making, but evidence. If the facts are there, hold a person accountable for whatever, violation of policy is, or if there was a criminal act involved, refer it to internal criminal investigations and to the DA's office or the ESDOJ. And we did that on a rare occasions when it was appropriate. And when we did that and the results spoke for themselves, we had a buy-in from the employees because they realized, no, we're not trying to, have a plate full of heads to, show off like McDonald did. No, if you got on my radar because you screwed up, well, that's probably because you earned it. And that was a reaction from the employees. Yeah. They screwed up. And that's probably where you want to be, because you want to have buy-in and support from your employees who are subjected to, that accountability.
Interesting you say that. I'm hoping you agree with me, but the majority of you earned that. We always used to say, in my experience, you kind of got to work your ass off to make it to some serious misconduct. And mostly it's done off duty than it is on duty. Like off-duty conduct, you really, really narrow the scope to really scrutinize and pass judgment. What do you think?
Yeah, off-duty conduct gets a lot of attention. When I was sheriff, we had to review a lot of the off-duty stuff, and we had to decide, okay, does this have anything to do with employment?
Performance.
Yeah. Is there any nexus to the employer, yes or no? Is it criminal, yes or no? If they were stupid, but it was not criminal, it was off-duty, had nothing to do with the employer, there is nothing to do here. Yeah. Leave it alone, walk away, and that's when you want their supervisor, hey, dumbass, let's try not to get on anybody's radar. And that worked. Yeah. I'll be darned how that worked.
During your first tour, did you feel as though some of the decision-making when adjudicating an internal affairs complaint was kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, or did we really take our time to really look at all the facts and make a very good, reasonable, sound decision? What do you think?
Well, when I was a young deputy working patrol, they wanted to give me, I think, a day off for a TC.
Okay.
A preventable traffic collision. And I argued. I went through the appeal process that we have before the Skelly hearing, okay. The grievance process. And I won the grievance. And so the thing got rescinded, and I think it reduced to a written reprimand or something. And okay, I was okay with that. That was an appropriate outcome. And I think as long as we're doing that and it doesn't look like it's a kangaroo court, which it often has been.
Oh, no.
And when you got that, the outcome is garbage in, garbage out.
Before I start getting into asking you questions about your first tour as a sheriff, let me ask you this. If you're in a room full of sergeants today, right now, and you had the podium, and those sergeants are ready to begin their tour in internal affairs as investigators, what's the one thing you want them to know about that job?
I can tell you right away, their loyalty is not to me, not to the department, not to the activists, not to the politicians. Their loyalty has to be to the truth.
It sounds as almost as like that's not really a lot of the investigators, right? Do you feel sometimes it's not? Some people just, like you said, there's been guests in the past where, yeah, I took this job because it's a feather in the cap. I'm going to promote. So, do we always seek the truth in your experience?
No. In fact, I've seen it often where they avoid the truth because the truth is unpleasant or it doesn't fit the narrative that's already been crafted. And that's where IA and ICIB gets into trouble. And also results in a lot of litigation.
Yeah, you know what? I always felt as though the motto has always been no stone goes unturned. You should do it not so much, you should do it to exonerate your partner officer or if it leads you to, yeah, they did it. There's a big difference. I think sometimes we pay attention to one avenue, but we don't pay attention to both. What do you think?
Yeah, because if you're there under the mindset, I'm going to get as many cops off the hook as I can, I'm there to protect cops. No, you're there to protect the truth. And wherever that leads you, that's where you go. And same thing when you're investigating higher ups.
Yeah.
When it becomes inconvenient, or you're starting to weigh your career potential because now we're treading in waters of someone that might have an employment decision influence over you, well, that's when you dot your I's, cross your T's, and document and always let people know, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is where it's taking us, and put it in writing, because that way if it goes to shit later on, and now you might be the one hiring a counsel, and you have the whistleblower protection.
Sheriff, share your thoughts on this quote, because this is something that I always talk about is, the punishment is not the penalty. The punishment is the process.
I agree with that 100%, because you could have a case that drags out for 2 years, might be a 10-day suspension. But you're going to be raked through the coals for 2 years. You may be relieved of duty. And in fact, when I took over in 2018, I had all my division chiefs go through, because we had a huge number of employees that were relieved of duty. It was like over 200, which was an ungodly amount. And I had them all go through every case, find out if it's a terminable offense, if proven true, and is there substantial facts. And if there's not, I want them back at work. And they did that, and so that over 200 list, we shrunk it down to under 50.
Wow.
And now that really boosted morale, and it lowered the cost for the department. And also, it freed up now the investigators to actually investigate the big cases that we're running out of time to investigate. So we don't have unlimited resources.
Who do we hold accountable for the process? What do you think? I mean, if we're treated like we're in the island all by ourselves, right? Or we're in our darkest moments and we're losing everything, we're waiting for this outcome. What can we do better to make this process, I guess, healthier or better? What do you think?
Well, I think it's your, as they say in Spanish, por sus frutos lo conoceréis. You're judged by the fruit of your labor.
Yo lo entiendo muy bien. Yo también hablo español.
All right. In other words, if you're consistently sustaining founded investigation on bad misconduct and you're absolving people when the facts weren't there, that's your track record. And the more you establish that track record, you increase the faith of employees that, okay, you know what, I'm going to be treated fairly. When you have investigators doing interviews, on employees and how they treat the person they're interviewing, because I've heard horror stories about IA investigators making a total ass of themselves. Yeah. And shame on them, because one is I value every single employee of the department, and I thank them for coming to work and doing the job they do. I don't care who they are, where they work, what they do, but I need them all. So I want them treated like my own family member. Mm-hmm. And if they screwed up, that'll come out eventually in the investigation. And then the executives will make the decision based on what the finding is. Mm-hmm. But the IA has no business, trying to extract their pound of flesh, during the interview. Yeah. Because they got an attitude or an agenda.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what we call re-victimization. We oftentimes, like you said, we pound the hammer like, we're treating you like you're this murder suspect, this violent criminal trying to get answers from you, when in reality, what it really is just a neglect of duty or a violation of policy.
I have a really good example of that when I was sheriff. Someone else who was running for sheriff was trying to convince people to file suit against me, and it was behind a deputy-involved shooting that went sideways, the suspect deceased, and we relieved the person of duty based on the initial information we had. And this candidate went to them to try to convince them to sue me. And the guy said, no, I understand why. And I'll wait to the result, and he'll end up getting absolved. And that is someone who had faith in the process, even though they're trying to tell him, oh my God, yeah, you're a victim, you're a victim.
Yeah.
He said, no, let it take its course, and he was vindicated.
What's moving on to your first term, your first tour as sheriff? Was that one of your big challenges? Is discipline? I'm sure you had many, but was that one of your focus points, if you will?
There was a challenge within the IA, but it is not what I expected.
Okay.
I kind of knew when we right-sized it and we demanded that they go after evidence and make evidence-based decisions, it's going to, over time, it's going to prove itself and it'll right itself. Mm-hmm. And that turned out to be 100% accurate. What I did not expect was people within the management and the executive branch of the department actually gaming the system to either sabotage me or to protect a friendly. That's the one I did not expect.
Wow. Did you? Interestingly enough, the only thing that I can add to that is you're not alone in that environment. Do we blame that on culture? Is it culture that we tend to do things that we're not supposed to do?
I think when I took over in 2018, I upset the apple cart in so many ways because I did not owe anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, one union, helped in my campaign with a PAC, but the other union helped the other guys, so it was kind of a wash. So basically, I walked in, no one had a pink slip on me in any way, shape, or form, which turned out to be the worst thing possible for the Board of Supervisors and the political establishment because they couldn't control me per se. But I wasn't here to do something wrong. I'd been a cop for 32 years at that point. Yeah. Through thick and thin, survived calling out, Lee Bach and Paul Tanaka when they went sideways. I was laughed at, ridiculed. Turned out I was right all along. Yeah. But so when I walked in, my assumption was that everybody was going to realize, hey, this is our opportunity. Let's get this department back in running shape, back in order, and get back to work serving the community. But there were people, they were so privileged in their careers, they thought they were entitled to certain positions and ranks. And because they didn't get them, how dare I deprive them of what they're entitled to? Don't I know better? And that mentality was kind of sad to think about because they were willing to sabotage the reputation of the entire department because they didn't get their way. Mm.
You know what, Sheriff, when I was a young sergeant, my first year as a sergeant back in 2007, I met my commander. Shout out to Kyle Jackson. He was such a good mentor, and I'm so thankful. God, I have a lot of faith too that he does his best work through people. Very instrumental. And he always told me, he said, Marlon, whatever you do in this job, get your politics and egos out of the way. It's never about you. Leave all that at the door when you come to work. And you know what? I have followed and definitely implemented that in my career when I was a sergeant for 15 years before I retired. And and what really kind of motivated me to do a podcast about internal affairs is to your point. I think I always tell this to people, at some point in some levels of review, it gets personal. It does. I don't like Alex. I don't like Marlon. I just give him 5 days. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's not about you. It's about this process by which you're turning every single stone. And hey, man, I'll give you a perfect example. False statements. I've been on this soapbox the last 6 months about accusing cops of lying. Look, you're going to accuse someone of lying. You better have a lot of evidence. You better have a substantial amount of evidence. 1, 2, why don't we try to find out to see how does it benefit the accused from lying? Let's ask that question. Let's ask the hard questions. Don't just turn it in and then leave it up to the adjudicators and say, hey, you know what? I think they're lying. Well, you know what? Hey, investigator, you need to re-interview them again. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, You got to ask the difficult questions. Hey, Marlon, Alex, on that radio call, these facts right here, you know what? I feel as though like you're kind of lying, or you're not really telling me, and I'm misunderstanding about what happened when you transported, that suspect or whatever. Why don't we go back and, and talk about that? But we don't. We just, turn it in and then leave it up to adjudicators to somehow, some way arbitrarily just, hey, I think they're lying. And next thing you know, you're facing termination. What do you think?
That sad if it unfolds that way. Really, really sad. And every day during the week when I was in office, we had what we call the top of 5 meeting. And that was myself, the undersheriff, the 3 assistant sheriffs, chief of staff, and aide. And the standing order was always, okay, what's the issue? Okay, what's the right thing to do? It was always order number 1, what's the right thing to do? Number 2, how do we make that happen? Yeah. And we never deviated from that. And all the lawsuits that were thrown in my direction, they could not shake that one loose because there was no trail or smoking guns or memos or nothing. Why? Because it was like, okay, what's the right thing to do? Make it happen.
Yeah.
And that standing order is what kept us out of the grease. And one is the right thing to do. Yeah. I didn't spend my entire career to then get to the top, the pinnacle of the profession to then become a bad guy overnight as they paint you. As they paint me as some, tattooed gang member.
That's right. You're a villain.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just spoke truth to power. People didn't like what I had to say, but I don't apologize for saying it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I had to share that with you because, again, it cringe, it makes me feel as though, what are we really trying to accomplish here besides the fact that we're trying to get to the truth, to your point. Sheriff, let me ask you this. What did you learn about yourself during your time, your first tour?
Well, I learned something that is probably doesn't help me or didn't help me at the time is that I like to think and appeal to people's better angels. I like to think people are in office, in public office, for the right reasons. And I think Gil Cedillo, the disgraced former city councilman, he said it best. I met him in 2019. He wanted to speak to me, so I went to City Hall to speak to him, and he kind of gave me the sun, kind of how the world works. He says, you can be a reformer when I was already making massive reforms of the department, or you can be reelected, but you can't do both. I thought, wow, okay. I see how it is. And I never did things to see how this is going to affect my reelection. But I got to meet so many elected officials. That is literally their first order of business. How does this make me look when I'm running for reelection or going a step up to the next position? And then now you know why nothing ever gets done in elected office in the public sector here in California, because everyone is chasing the brass ring and worrying about themselves and not about, can we get the job done? Yeah. Can we clear up the streets? Can we get the homeless where they need to be? Can we stop all these wanton crimes that are going on right now? We can actually do all those things, but you got to have willingness to do it first.
Spot on. My dad used to always say, in Spanish, used to tell me, ¿sabes qué, Marlon? En tu vida siempre vas a pagar lo que es bueno y lo que es malo. In life, you're always going to pay. Whether it's good or bad, it's going to happen. And so I thank you for sharing all that. Here we are going into re-election, right? We're going to try a second tour. I suppose the best way to frame this question for you is that what would you do different in this re-election, your second go, that you didn't do or that you did do your first time around?
Well, every decision I made the first time around were good decisions based on ethical principles and evidence. But now that I know how the game is played, I'll probably approach them in a different order of events, time. I'm not in a hurry to do anything on employment decisions. For example, I when I started the Truth and Reconciliation process, right away the Board of Supervisors did a motion to stop me. They had no authority to. And I ended up making employment decisions on individuals that I actually could have just given them the information and let them use it through the system, and we'll testify on their behalf. But now it's the county as a defense. But since I did it, I became the defense.
Oh.
So that's things that you realize, you know what, we can change, who's the one that has to be on the hot seat defending decisions, and we're not the one making bad decisions. So we can put that off on somebody else. Little things you learn along the way.
Oh, all for that. Okay, next question. It's the one that it's so contradicting. I like asking the question, but yet I don't. And here it is. Worst incident in your career?
Worst in my career that I can recall, it happened when I was a training officer in patrol in East LA. I had a young trainee. We had a double homicide, and we were the one writing the report, and it was cousins just came from Mexico, and they were gunned down in the driveway of their family's home. Literally, they showed up that day and gunned down by gangsters, and these literally just fell off the turnip truck. And we had to go to the hospital with the father, who was the uncle of one, and they had to identify the body, and then they had to go to the other hospital and identify the other one, which is their son. And that was such a gut-wrenching thing, and the screams and the cries, and these are all genuine, sincere people, not the crocodile tears of the gangster crowd. No, these are just humble, hardworking people, day laborers and so forth, and that one stayed with me.
Yeah, that's, I always say that as much as I don't like asking that question, I do, because that is police work. That's what you're actually signing up for. All these things where you see TikTok cops and, walking, the old lady across the street, all the community service. I think that's great. But not all the time, but oftentimes we give this impression that police work is going to be this, happy, you're going to go through an emotional roller coaster. You're going to work weekends, holidays, graves. And so, you reach back to something that happened decades ago, and a lot of guests do. And I always wanted to let the audience know that, hey, this is what you're signing up for. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And those and memories like that are the ones that stay with you in your whole career, and they help kind of shape your worldview and how important your job is. And it reinforces the fact that, in spite of what the media claims, deputies are not gang members. They're out there working a difficult job, made more difficult because of all the vitriol thrown at them by the establishment. And they do a commendable job day in and day out. And I think every deputy is going to go through their own set of experiences like that.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I still can't figure out, you and I were having a conversation about SB2 and one of these, association by gang. I still cannot figure out that whole paragraph, what the state, really means by that, but that's a whole different conversation. Let's get to the good stuff. What's going on? How's the campaign? When did you start the campaign? When's the next, big outing? And how can we get a hold of you?
Well, we just launched July 22nd, I think, so we're just barely started. We're starting to do the fundraising now and the organizing. The level of support that we're getting has just been phenomenal. Deputies are excited, and I see them everywhere, and they say, "Oh, please, thank God." And that's kind of, I guess, thank God is probably the easiest description of the reaction I'm getting from within the department, outside the department, and talking to people on the street, people that have been messaging me. They're saying, "Please, we need you." And I think, because the media is doing such a spectacular job of covering the sheer incompetence of the incumbent, like, you would never know the department is falling apart, but it is.
Yes.
They're just never going to admit it.
Yeah.
But when I was in office, every day I was like, "Oh my God, the sky is falling," and it wasn't.
No.
Actually, everything was working the way it is.
Yeah.
Our Are employees going to do dumb things now and then? Yes, like in any organization.
We're human.
Human. Are bad things going to happen and tragedies are going to happen? Yes, that's going to happen. It's nothing to do with the organization. It's how we react to all these things that counts. And we did things the right way for the right reasons. And I think now today, people appreciate like, hey, you know what? I think we got misled. He had it right 4 years ago. So let's do it again.
Yeah, let's run it back.
Yep.
Where do we get a hold? Is there a website that we can get a hold of you?
Yes, AlexVillanueva2026.com. You can go there. You can donate. You can volunteer. We have a lot of different volunteer events to do. It's too early for that part now because people are not really paying attention. But on the donation side and spreading information, yes, you can share that. You can text that website. And the only rule is you can't pass $1,500 per election. That's the only limitation.
The other rule is that you got to have un lomo saltado or arroz con gandules. I mean, what are we going here?
Arroz con gandules is good. The pastelillos are important. Yes, got to have the pastelillos.
Pero un ceviche peruano has got to be it, right?
I don't know about the Peruano part.
That's great. Look, we're going to wrap it up. I really appreciate you coming down, sharing your journey, sharing what you got going on. I'll leave the floor up to you before we wrap it up. Any advice that you have for anyone who wants to come on to be a cop? What kind of advice do you have?
Well, my campaign motto is "Help is on the way." So if people were thinking not to or avoiding the sheriff's department because of all the drama going on now, apply. We're going to clean things up, and they're going to be happy to join the sheriff's department. But any agency, I want to encourage people who can, if they're of age and the ability to join law enforcement in any capacity, welcome them. We need all the help we can get, and I think we need to turn the narrative back to, yes, we actually need a physical law enforcement presence. We need to have the institutions to be protected and supported by the political establishment, not demonized. As we saw with the tragedy of Charlie Kirk,
yes,
you keep dehumanizing humans and they humanize demons, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it's such a tragedy. Thank you so much.
You got it.
We're going to wrap it up. Help is on the way. If you ever need any help from, the islands, you can always get a hold of me. We're going to wrap it up. Hey, like always, please be safe out there, and don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.